Hi, hello, and welcome back to The High Method. My name is Jen Hatz. I am the host of The High Method podcast and also the founder of The High Method, a holistic, integrative, and innovative approach to assessing and optimizing human health, well-being, and performance. And I'm partnered with Neuroforce One, a human performance company that has been training champions for years. And they offer training and assessments in their facility as well as remote options available. And you need to rethink your protein. I love this concept of like, there's always debates really around protein and around how much is too much or how much is enough, really. Is there a minimum? Is there a maximum? What sources of protein? So right now, this entire topic, because there's a whole lot of research around it and amount, like constantly unfolding new studies that are being added to this mountain of research. Right now, we're going to take a step back and first look at something that I don't think anyone else has really looked at. So when it comes to protein, so protein obviously being one of your macronutrients, you require a certain amount, and we have, I believe, enough evidence to see that we know at least the range of what you would require each day in terms of total protein intake in order to maintain your basic health and structural functioning, like everything about your body, how your body works, how your body would best benefit from, and where kind of the line would be drawn between what is too low or too high. And so we have a pretty clear idea of what that amount looks like, at least in a range. And so for a quick like rule of thumb, if you're ever wondering if you are maybe too high or too low in protein, the quickest rule of thumb is to look at, honestly, whatever your body weight is, put that into grams. Just literally take the number. So if your body weight is 150 pounds, then 150 grams of protein is probably right around where you need to be, maybe a little less than that, depending on how much lean body mass you have, or maybe a little more than that if you have a certain preference with the types of foods that you do eat. But in all intents and purposes, really, the amount of protein that you should be aiming for is pretty standardized across the board, like whatever the ranges are, to end up right around that number of whatever your body weight is in pounds. Just take away the pounds and just make it grams. So like I said, 150 pounds is 150 grams kind of a thing. So super easy rule of thumb to think about when it comes to like, okay, am I having the right amount of protein for my body? Do I at least have like a target in mind of what I want to aim for? Now, here's the thing that has come out at least a little more recently and supported with research, this concept that number, the total amount, so if that was 150 grams of protein that you're aiming for, that number is across all of your food sources. So this, I think, is a very key point to really drive home, because this then starts to, if anything, kind of unravel some of the arguments either for or against certain types of eating styles, certain types of dietary patterns. The reason why I say that is because if your protein intake is total across the board from all of your food sources, that is the protein intake that you need to hit across all food. Now you have to start looking at first of all, what types of foods are you taking in? What are the portions of all of those? And how accurately are you, in fact, reaching that protein goal from all of these foods? Because I can almost guarantee you that if you are eating a certain type of dietary pattern that promotes and prioritizes animal protein foods, first of all, but heavy portions of it, heavily prioritizing animal protein foods, I can almost guarantee you that you are not only that you're meeting your protein needs from all these foods, but you're probably under eating all of those plant foods that you need to be having. Because again, that protein total should be across animal protein foods and plant protein foods. So this is where the big misconception comes in with the topic of protein, is the difference between the animal proteins and plant proteins, specifically the fact that animal proteins are complete proteins, meaning that they contain all of the essential amino acids already there in that serving of a protein food, whereas plant proteins are considered incomplete proteins, but they're also complementary proteins. So as long as you have combinations of grains and legumes throughout your day, then you're going to meet all of those essential amino acids. It's really not that it's incomplete proteins, like they're completely missing like major parts. They're incomplete but complementary. So they actually pair up specifically in order to provide you with all of the protein you do need. Now, here's the big difference So between those two, when you look at the overall caloric intake that you would have from a serving of an animal protein food versus a serving of plant protein food, and it's not just the calories, but it's also all of the macronutrients, and specifically something that is not considered a macronutrient, but I think it should be. It doesn't provide calories, but it's of equal importance to the macronutrients, and that's fiber. So your plant protein foods are going to contain fiber. Animal protein foods will not. Fiber is a very big, it's if anything, like probably the biggest reason for you to utilize as best as possible all the nutrients from your food, because it's going to slow down the rate of you digesting and absorbing, and it's going to feed your gut bacteria. Your gut bacteria are digesting the food that you eat. So you want to feed them well with what they thrive on so that they can also feed well on the food that you're giving them and give back to you those nice healthy metabolites that they can produce when they are in good health themselves. So all that being said, there are other episodes about fiber intake as well that you can get really into the weeds with the fiber intake and figure out like what is the right amount and where do I find this fiber intake. But back to protein. So that difference between the animal protein and plant protein. So not only the complete protein being animal protein, like as a serving is already complete, plant proteins are complementary proteins that you can pair up throughout the day. But this combination of all of this is going to equal up your total protein intake. Now, the difference is another difference actually between the animal protein and the plant protein is how bioavailable some of these amino acids are, and therefore how much more efficiently you can absorb them. So the animal protein products, animal protein foods really, it's not only complete protein, but it's also highly bioavailable, and it's very efficiently, you're able to really use and absorb all of the amino acids from that food. Whereas plant proteins are less bioavailable compared to the animal proteins. And so you have to have, if you think of it like this, you would have to have a higher dose of a plant protein in order to fully get and absorb as much of it as you would for an animal protein. So if that helps to make sense about the difference in efficiency with how well you would absorb this and with how bioavailable it is. Now here's something, and that right there, what I just explained about complete proteins and the bioavailability, that is why there are so many, especially health enthusiasts that promote animal protein foods as a top priority for your protein intake. And they will hammer it in like you need to have an animal protein at every single meal in order to get those complete proteins and in order to meet your protein needs for the day. And that is their argument on repeat about having all of this animal protein food in order to meet your protein needs because it's a complete protein and because it's highly bioavailable. Here's the thing, and this is how I'm going to spin this argument around. Because it's already complete protein, because it's highly bioavailable, that's why a little bit would go a long way. That's why you wouldn't need to take in heavy and high portion sizes of it and have it constantly, constantly coming in. You could get away with a little bit of it because it's already highly bioavailable. It's already going to be very efficiently absorbed. You're already getting complete protein out of it. So why wouldn't you allow yourself to have a smaller portion of that, because a little bit goes a long way, and now fill out the rest of your diet with what you need across the plant-based foods. You need to have fiber that you will not get from animal-based foods. Whew, man, right? So that one thing just spun that entire argument around. So now you can start to see that, yeah, if it is in fact, the truth of it is that your total protein intake comes from all the foods you have. So you can fill up your diet across the board with all those plant-based foods that you need to have to get that fiber. And now you can start to look at animal proteins as adding the little added benefit of that highly bioavailable protein, but in meaningful amounts, in less is more type of mentality, that a little bit goes a long way. And you can save yourself so much, first of all, digestive burden from having the flip side of that, where you have a high amount of meat and a low amount of fiber. That is a digestive burden. Your gut bacteria are not going to serve you well on a diet that looks like that. So instead, flipping that around, so you have specifically, it would be a plant-based diet because the majority of your foods are coming from plants. And you're adding in animal protein foods so that you can essentially utilize that high bioavailable and complete protein source in small but meaningful amounts. That is probably the best like golden ticket for the right type of diet that you can follow, not only now, currently, but long term. It's going to be beneficial for your health long term, physical and mental health long term, and it's going to help be probably the most sustainable and realistic and cost efficient way to meet your protein needs on a consistent basis. Hopefully you learned something new today about protein. Drop a comment below if you learned something new. If you have any other questions about this topic, please leave a comment below and ask. And otherwise, please like, share, and subscribe so we can spread the love and spread the light. All right, thank you all.